As the wedding day approached, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. I hadn't spoken to most of my family for years, and the fact that Mark was reaching out to me was a small step forward. But even with his invitation, I knew there were underlying tensions, especially with my father and Jenny. Still, I decided to put aside the past, at least for the day. When I arrived at the wedding venue, I was greeted by Mark with a warm hug, and for a moment, it seemed like old times. He introduced me to some of his friends and family, and the atmosphere felt almost normal. But that sense of normalcy quickly faded when I was face to face with my father and Jenny. The coldness was palpable. My father barely looked at me, and Jenny, with her usual sarcastic tone, took a jab at me the moment I walked in. She asked, "So, how much are you making these days? Still playing with your little food truck?" Her words cut deep, but I remained composed. I didn't want to make a scene at my brother's wedding, so I let the comment slide. However, that moment was a turning point. After a few more tense exchanges, I couldn't take it anymore. I was already feeling like an outsider in a family I had long been estranged from. I decided it was time to leave, but not without making my point clear. Before I walked out, I turned to my father and said, "If you think you can humiliate me like this at my brother's wedding and expect me to stay, you're wrong. I'm done." But I didn't leave quietly. I made one final statement. "By the way, I own the catering company that you just hired. If you had bothered to do your due diligence, you'd know I'm the one providing the food for this event." With that, I walked out, leaving them to deal with the consequences of their actions. As I left the venue, I could feel the weight lift off my shoulders. It had been a long time coming, and while I wasn't looking to destroy the event, I felt like I needed to stand up for myself. My father and stepmother had pushed me to the edge, and I wasn't about to let them disrespect me any longer. The aftermath was swift. Less than an hour after I left, I received a call from Mark, furious about what had happened. But by then, I was already done with the whole situation. My father called me soon after, trying to smooth things over, but it was too late. I wasn't interested in being part of a family that had treated me with such disdain for years. Eventually, I found out that when the catering company arrived, the food was taken by a group of 25 men who had been dispatched to remove it from the premises. They had been instructed by me to take the food back. The 300 guests at the wedding were left hungry, with nothing to eat, and my family was scrambling to salvage the situation. The irony of it all wasn't lost on me. They had treated me like an outsider, and now they were facing the consequences. Mark later called, apologizing for not having trusted me enough to accept my offer of catering for the wedding. But I wasn't interested in hearing excuses. I had learned long ago that actions speak louder than words, and my family's actions had made it clear that I didn't belong in their world anymore. While I didn't enjoy the drama, I knew that I had made the right decision. They had pushed me away for years, and I wasn't going to let them bring me back into their toxic dynamics. If they wanted to mend things, they needed to realize that respect, not manipulation, was the way forward. But I wouldn't hold my breath. The wedding was held at a beautiful venue in Lake Forest, and I arrived cautiously optimistic. Mark seemed genuinely happy to see me, which was a relief, but Jenny's attitude hadn't changed. The moment she saw me, she made snide comments about my appearance and my catering business. I brushed it off and tried to enjoy the ceremony, which was undeniably beautiful. However, the family seating arrangement was telling. I was placed at a table far from my immediate family, alongside distant cousins I barely knew. It felt like a subtle reminder that I was still considered an outsider. Things took a nosedive during the reception. My father, clearly drunk, approached my table and started berating me out of nowhere. He accused me of showing up uninvited, despite the formal invitation I had in my pocket, and loudly claimed I was an embarrassment to the family. Before I could even respond, Jenny chimed in, asking with thinly veiled sarcasm how much I was earning playing restaurant owner these days. She even commented on my suit, implying I couldn't afford something that nice. The sheer audacity was unbelievable. Instead of reacting, I decided to leave quietly. I knew there was no point in engaging with them, especially with my father being drunk and Jenny clearly enjoying the opportunity to take jabs at me. As I walked toward my car, something caught my eye. the catering staff setting up for the main course. I recognized several of them immediately. They worked for me. That's when it hit me. The catering company my business partner had hired for the wedding had recently been acquired by my company. The former owner had stayed on as a manager, so I hadn't been directly involved in the planning. But legally, the company and this event were now under my control. I called my operations manager to confirm what I already suspected. Sure enough, this was our event. I thought back to what my father had said, how I was an embarrassment, how I was ruining the wedding just by being there. And that's when I made a decision. If my presence was so offensive to them, then surely they wouldn't want my company catering their event either. I instructed my staff to pack everything up and leave immediately. Within 15 minutes, 25 of my employees had loaded all the food, equipment, and supplies back into our trucks and were on their way out. Chaos erupted shortly after, with 300 guests left without their main course or dessert. People quickly realized something was seriously wrong. My father tried to intervene, but there was nothing he could do. The contract they had signed with the previous owner of the catering company included a clause that allowed us to terminate service if there was any hostile or discriminatory behavior toward our staff or ownership. And that's exactly what had happened. I handed my business card to the venue manager and told her to have my father direct any disputes about payment to my attorney. The fallout was swift. By the next morning, my phone was lighting up with a barrage of texts and missed calls. Family members accused me of being dramatic, vindictive, and selfish. Mark sent me a long-winded message claiming I had ruined his wedding and proven Jenny right about me all along. My father, predictably, threatened to sue me for breach of contract. I didn't respond. I just forwarded all of their messages to my lawyer and blocked their numbers. But then something unexpected happened. A few hours later, I began receiving messages from some of the wedding guests, people who had been there who saw everything unfold in real time. To my surprise, several of them were firmly on my side. They said they were disgusted by the way my father and Jenny treated me, and a few even said they were glad someone had stood up to them. One of Mark's friends, someone familiar with my catering company, reached out to say he was sorry for how things played out and praised how professionally my team handled the transition. That support meant more than I expected. It reminded me that not everyone was fooled by the narrative Jenny was spinning. Over the next few days, word of what happened at the wedding started spreading. Apparently, the drama became a hot topic among Mark's friends and co-workers, and Jenny's carefully polished image began to unravel. She tried to control the story, telling anyone who would listen that I was the one who ruined the reception, but no one was buying it. The truth was already out, and the damage was done. Since then, I've had time to reflect. And honestly, I don't regret what I did. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't crash the party. I was invited and then insulted, belittled, and disrespected. They made it clear they didn't want me there, and so I took myself and my professional services out of the equation. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't dramatic. It was business. You don't get to spit in the face of the person who catered your event and expect them to serve hors d'oeuvres with a smile. That said, I can't pretend this hasn't left a bad taste in my mouth. I thought I had moved past the family drama, but somehow I got pulled right back in. I'm still wondering, did I go too far? Was I being petty? Or did they truly get what they deserved for treating me like an outsider at my own brother's wedding? So, Reddit, I'm turning to you. Was I the asshole here, or was I within my rights to walk away from a job and a family that clearly didn't respect me? I was prepared for this, though. The letter from my father's lawyer wasn't a surprise. I had been expecting some kind of retaliation, but what they didn't realize was that I had already taken all the necessary steps to protect myself and my business. My lawyer responded quickly, reiterating that the cancellation of services was within my rights based on the contractual clause, and that they were fully aware of the hostile behavior displayed at the event. We also made it clear that their claims of damage were baseless, especially considering the video evidence. I honestly wasn't worried about them suing me. The more they pursued it, the more they were digging themselves into a hole. My lawyer was confident that we would win if it went to court, but I also made it clear to my family that I didn't want to drag things out. If they were willing to listen and stop the nonsense, I was open to working out a resolution. But I wasn't going to let them bully me, nor would I allow their toxic behavior to continue affecting my life. To my surprise, I received a call from Mark yesterday. He seemed to have finally realized how far things had gone, and I could tell he was genuinely regretful. He apologized for not trusting me and for being complicit in the whole situation. He mentioned that the family, especially his wife, was having a hard time facing the reality of their actions, but he understood why I had done what I did. He admitted that my actions were justified, and he promised to speak to our father and Jenny in an attempt to calm the situation down. While it was a positive step, I knew it wasn't enough to just apologize. I needed more than words. I needed respect and accountability. I wasn't about to let my family walk all over me just because they felt entitled to my time, money, and energy. I've since decided that I'll only engage with my family in a way that respects my boundaries. If they want to be part of my life, they need to understand that their actions have consequences, and I won't tolerate manipulation or disrespect anymore. I've learned a lot about myself in this process, and while it's been painful, it's also been empowering. So, to everyone who's been following this story and offering advice, thank you. Your support has meant a lot to me, and I'm taking it to heart as I move forward. No matter how this situation ends, I've already won by standing up for myself. I'm finally in a place where I'm unapologetically me, and I won't let anyone try to take that away. Naturally, I wasn't about to cave in to their demands. I wasn't going to pay them anything, especially since they were the ones who had created this mess in the first place. After discussing things with my lawyer, we decided to offer a counterproposal. We're willing to refund 50% of the deposit, but only under two conditions. First, they must sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, meaning they can't talk about the situation publicly or leave negative reviews online. Second, they must sign a release of claims, which would prevent them from pursuing any further legal action against me or my company. We sent the offer, and now we're just waiting for their response. Despite all this legal wrangling, Jenny has already tried to cause problems. The venue manager called me a few days ago to let me know that Jenny had been attempting to post negative reviews about my catering company online. In her reviews, she claimed that we had sabotaged the wedding and blown things out of proportion to make the family look bad. Thankfully, the venue manager was able to block her attempts, but it's still frustrating to deal with. My legal team is keeping a close eye on the situation, and if Jenny continues to spread false information, we'll treat it as defamation and escalate accordingly. Interestingly enough, the chaos of the wedding has led to some unexpected positives for my business. Several wedding guests have since reached out to compliment how my staff handled the situation and even expressed interest in hiring us for their own events. Some told me they were impressed by how quickly and professionally my team packed up and left. It's strange to think that a disaster like this could lead to new business opportunities, but that seems to be the silver lining in all this. As for my brother Mark, he still hasn't contacted me directly, but he did send a message through one of our mutual cousins. In the message, Mark admitted that he felt guilty for not standing up for me during the wedding. He said he didn't want to cause problems with our father and Jenny, which is why he stayed silent when things got ugly. He apologized and asked if we could meet to talk things over. I have mixed feelings about this. Part of me wants to give him a chance to explain, but another part of me feels like it's too late for that. For now, I'm going to hold off on any meetings until the legal situation is fully resolved. On a personal level, I've been doing a lot of soul-searching in the aftermath of everything that's happened. In some ways, there's a sense of vindication in finally standing up for myself. For years, my family treated me like I didn't belong, like I was a convenient afterthought. Drawing a hard boundary wasn't just necessary, it felt long overdue. From a legal and professional standpoint, I know I made the right calls. But emotionally, this entire ordeal has taken its toll. There's a quiet kind of grief that comes with realizing how fractured your family has become. I've been estranged from my father and Jenny for a long time, but this situation brought that distance into stark focus. Mark's wedding was supposed to be a joyful celebration, a chance, if not to reconcile, then at least to be part of something meaningful. Instead, it spiraled into a legal mess and an emotional battlefield I never asked for. Now that the dust is starting to settle, the weight of it is hitting me. I find myself wondering about the long-term fallout. Will I ever be able to rebuild trust with the rest of my family? Is it even possible to salvage a relationship with Mark? Or did this event drive the final wedge between us? I don't have the answers yet. Maybe I won't for a while. What I do know is that healing, if it happens, won't come overnight. Right now, my focus is on the next step. Waiting to see how my father and Jenny respond to the NDA and the mutual release of claims. If they're willing to sign and move on, then maybe, just maybe, we can all put this behind us. If not, and they choose to pursue legal action, I'm ready to defend both myself and my company. Either way, I'll keep you updated. Your support and messages of encouragement have meant more than I can express, especially in such a turbulent time. That said, since my last post, things have only unraveled further, but at least the legal side is finally resolved. Before I get into that, there's something I recently learned that puts a lot into perspective. A colleague of mine, someone who had collaborated professionally with the wedding planner Jenny and Mark hired, shared some behind-the-scenes insight into the weeks leading up to the wedding. Apparently, the tension didn't start with my arrival. It had been simmering long before then. From what I was told, Jenny had been an absolute nightmare for the planning team. She repeatedly demanded last-minute changes to the floral designs, even after final approvals had been made. She couldn't make up her mind on the cake design, changing it at least 3 separate times. And to top it all off, she insisted on a full overhaul of the seating chart just days before the wedding, forcing the planner to rearrange over 300 guests more than once. And as you can imagine, these kinds of changes weren't just exhausting, they were expensive. Hearing that confirmed what I'd already suspected. This wasn't about one moment or one decision. It was about control. Jenny wanted everything her way, no matter who she steamrolled in the process. And I just happened to be the one person who wouldn't bend to it. The aftermath of everything that happened with my family has been intense, and I'm feeling more determined than ever to stand my ground. While the legal issues with Jenny and my father are mostly settled, the personal consequences continue to unfold, and it's been tough. One of the most frustrating things is how Jenny has been actively trying to undermine my catering business since the wedding. She's been contacting my employees, trying to get information about how we operate, but thankfully, my staff is loyal and knows better than to engage with her. We've made sure that everyone is clear to direct any communication from her directly to our legal team. It's incredibly irritating that she's resorting to these tactics, especially since I've worked so hard to build this business from the ground up. What started as a food truck during my college years has grown into a full-fledged catering company.